Get ready, Padres fans. It's time for the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Tatis at third, 2 outs. Fernando takes off. He's going to steal home without a play.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, and our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the Kansas City Royals in the second game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Royals, right-hander Randy Vasquez, or I should say, for the Padres, right-hander Randy Vasquez, and for the Royals, right-hander Alec Marsh. Hi again everyone, Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 1:10 p.m. at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, you'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll also check in with Jesse Agler in just a few minutes, and we'll also hear from today's leadoff man and a guy who has been so good with the Padres so far since the trade from Miami. That is Luis Arraez. But first, let's set the table. Brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside. Well, the first order of business here today. You may have thought Joe Musgrove was starting today's game. He was scheduled to be the starting pitcher for today's game in Kansas City. But we learned early this morning that Randy Vasquez would come up from AAA El Paso to make this start. So why is that? Well, we had some very significant news before today's game, both with Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish. Musgrove put on the 15-day IL with right elbow inflammation. Seems like the same issue that he was on the IL earlier in the month with. Yu Darvish also put on the IL with a left groin strain. So that is the big news of the morning, and Randy Vasquez starting instead of Joe Musgrove here today. As far as how these two teams match up entering Game 2 of this series, Padres enter with a record of 31-29. Royals are 35-24. Padres have won 7 of their last 9 series, 4 out of their last 5 games, 17-12 in their last 29 games. Meanwhile, the Royals have lost 5 of their last 6 games. Before we turn our full attention to today's game and everything going on in the Padres world this morning, let's take a look back at what became a wacky series opener last night.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
We begin in the 8th inning. Padres trail 3-2. They rallied. The bases were loaded with nobody out for Jake Cronenworth.
Right now, the Padres have the tying run 90 feet away. That's Arraez. Here's the pitch to Cronenworth. Ground ball right side into right center and a base hit. Luis has scored to tie it. Tatis is on his way. He'll score without a throw. A 2-run single for Cronenworth. And the Padres hop back in front. It's 4-3.
Padres weren't done. Manny Machado was next.
Now a 3-2. Machado swings, loops it in the air to left field. That'll drop down and a base hit. Profar going to come in to score. Cronenworth got a great read. He speeds into third base. An RBI single for Manny Machado, and the Padre lead is 5-3.
Oh man, they weren't done in that 8th inning. Donovan Solano stepped in.
Solano in battle mode here. 2-2 from MacArthur, lined into right center field. Is Bell going to have to play it on a couple of hops? Cronenworth comes in to score. Manny goes first to third. An RBI single for Solano. A 6th consecutive hit to start the 8th inning, and the Padres lead it 6-3.
They weren't done. Jackson Merrill was next.
Pitch from MacArthur is hit sharply on the ground through the right side and a base hit. Manny will come in to score. 7 straight singles to begin this inning for the Padres. They now lead 7-3.
Later in the frame, Luis Arraez stepped in for his second at-bat of the inning and did this.
Here's the 2-1. Arraez hits it in the air the other way. Melendez not going to get there. Another hit. 2 runs going to score. Throw to the plate is cut off. Fourth hit of the night for Arraez is a 2-run single, and the Padre lead is 9-3.
With finally 2 outs in the inning, Jerks and Profar hit an RBI single. Jake Cronenworth later had an RBI double. 9 runs, a franchise record, 11 hits in 1 inning. The Padres had an 11-3 lead. They still led 11-3, heading bottom 9. Things, though, got very tricky. Stephen Kolek really struggled to the point that the Padres had to bring Robert Suarez into the game with the score 11-6 and the tying run on deck. Suarez gave up a 2-run single to make it an 11-8 game, and that brought the tying run to the plate.
And so Velasquez, whose home run against Stephen Kolek began this 9th inning, will come to bat. Once again, the Royals get the tying run to the plate in the 9th inning. This has been their MO. First pitch to Velasquez, swung on, sent in the air to deep left field. Zokar is back at the wall. He's got it, and the ball game is over. About as an adventurous of a bottom of the 9th as you could ever dream of in what was an 11-3 game. But Nelson Velasquez flies out to the wall in left field to end it, and the Padres hang on for an 11-8 win here in Game 1 in Kansas City.
It was a wild one in Kansas City, but the Padres win the series opener. Now they go for a second straight win in KC with first pitch coming up at 1:10. As we get ready for this one in Kansas City, let's go to Kauffman Stadium.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Jesse Agler in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Jesse, let's get right into the big news of the morning. Yu Darvish and today's starting pitcher Joe Musgrove put on the IL. Randy Vasquez is in Kansas City. He'll start today's game. Padres sound like in all likelihood will call somebody up to start Tuesday's game in Anaheim. These injuries to Darvish and Musgrove, Jesse, what's their significance to this team, and how do the Padres move forward here?
Well, obviously very significant. Anytime 2/5 of your rotation, what's that, 40%? Are kind of knocked out in a single week. That's bad news for any team. Now, we've talked a lot this year about how the Padres have, the kind of pitching depth to cover the rotation that is really very different in a good way than any of the pitching depth that they've had in any of the last few years. But look, this taxes it, obviously, because not only are you now asking more out of Randy Vasquez and more out of whoever is called up to make the start on Tuesday in Anaheim, but obviously there's a little bit added pressure that goes to Dylan Cease and Michael King and Matt Waldron, the healthy guys who are in the rotation. And look, they don't want to be thinking about that or talking about that when they're out on the mound, but the reality is with Musgrove and Darvish down, even more important for those guys to be productive and to throw as well as they're possibly capable of. So, yeah, look, I mean, stating the obvious, I know, but 2 guys from your rotation, especially guys of the caliber of Musgrove and Darvish, go down with an injury each in the same week. That's going to be really, really tough. And, the reality of the baseball season, of course, is that it marches on. It waits for no man. It waits for no team. And nobody's going to be sitting around sorry for the Padres that they suffered these injuries this week. But there's no doubt, it turns the dial up on a bunch of different people.
And it does create some nice opportunities for Randy Vasquez here today. He'll probably get at least a couple of starts here in the major leagues. He's had some nice moments in his early Padres career. And again, we'll see who pitches on Tuesday in Anaheim. Let's talk a little bit about last night's game, because what a game. What a final 2 innings. It was wacky. It was really, really fun, though. I want to talk about the offense because we've spoken about it a lot. When this offense is at its best, it looks like what the Padres did. That was like the prime version of it in the 8th inning last night, but looks like what they did in the 8th inning last night, stringing hits together, quote-unquote, passing the baton. Those final 2 innings last night, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, it was a lot to sort of have to keep track of and be locked in on, and you certainly know what that is like. And, you go to the top of the 9th inning, right, and the Royals take Salvador Perez out of the game. They've got a position player on the mound, and you're thinking, all right, let's wrap this thing up and get out of here. And next thing you know, the tying run is at the plate, and, Nelson Velasquez is hitting one to the fence in left field. It was pretty bonkers, certainly. But, Tony and I talked about it a little bit during the game last night. This has been the Royals' MO as of late. Right. They have lost 5 out of their last 6 games. In all 5 of those games, they have either had the tying run on base or at the plate. And a couple of times it's been sort of like last night where they were down by kind of a lot going to the ninth inning, and they still ended up making it interesting. So that is kind of what they are and how they perform, although last night a pretty extreme example of it. But, yeah, look, for the Padres in the eighth inning, that is, as you said, sort of like the peak version of this thing they've been talking about. 11 hits in an inning is pretty bizarre, but just a really good, solid approach. Nobody trying to do too much. And I don't know that there's a better way to illustrate that than with this. In the top of the eighth inning last night, Kansas City pitchers threw 51 pitches. Mm-hmm. The Padres swung and missed one time.
How about that?
And
That's a great nugget.
That tells you everything you need to know about the way they were approaching those at-bats.
Yeah, really, really good piece of info there. And, Jesse, before I let you go, I just want to say I've really enjoyed the journey through Kansas City via your Instagram. I talked to Tony about the barbecue yesterday, and I know you guys mentioned it on the air yesterday. But then we had a photo with Paul Rudd before the game yesterday on your Instagram. And then we see a very large-looking, I think, grasshopper in the booth just about, an hour ago. So I've enjoyed the content this week. I really have.
There's a lot going on considering it's sort of like a late May, early June interleague series in Kansas City. It does feel like it's been pretty eventful. I've also got, which we'll try to get to in the first couple of innings here this afternoon, little teaser for everybody to stay locked in. Just a borderline unbelievable story involving the Padre manager and Midwestern hospitality. So stay tuned for that.
All right. It has been kind of a wild series when you consider, all the different stuff going on. The celebrities there yesterday, the wackiness of yesterday's game, and unfortunately, the big injury news here today. Jesse, as always, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Tony coming up at the top of the hour at 1 p.m. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sam.
All right, that is Jesse Agler joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show as we get ready for this one coming up in Kansas City. When we come back, we've got a few different things to do. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt and much, much more. Our pregame show continues after this on the Padres Radio Network. Welcome back to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. Your water perfected. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we walk you up towards first pitch. Coming up at 1:10 in Kansas City, Padres going for a fifth win in their last 6 games, going for a second straight win in Kansas City. If you missed it earlier, the big news of the day, really a couple of pieces of really big news earlier this morning, and I'll sort of take you through the timeline here as this news came out from Kansas City. We first learned that Padres right-hander Randy Vasquez, or I should say at the time, El Paso right-hander Randy Vasquez was getting called up from AAA El Paso to make today's start, and that immediately raised eyebrows around here, and you thought probably one of two things was happening. Either there was an issue with Joe Musgrove, or maybe it was Yu Darvish going on the IL, and everybody, maybe they were getting pushed back a day, but it ended up being both guys going on the IL. Yu Darvish going on the IL with a left groin strain retroactive to May 30th. Joe Musgrove going on the IL with right elbow inflammation retroactive to May 29th. The same issue for Joe that he dealt with a handful of weeks ago with that tricep tendonitis. So not great news there, but both those guys on the 15-day IL. And what that meant was Randy Vasquez starting today, and the Padres also will need a starter on Tuesday in Anaheim, and we'll see who they potentially call up to make that start on Tuesday. With that all in mind, let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
Padres manager Mike Shildt meeting with the media before today's game. Here was Mike on the situations with Musgrove, Darvish, and Vasquez getting recalled here today to make the start.
Yeah, so we got Randy in for Joe today. Last pitch of his side, on Joe's last side, felt some same area, some inflammation in the back of the elbow. Structurally not, overly concerned. He'll continue to get imaging. We have baselines with his elbow, but structurally we feel like everything's good. But just the repetitiveness of that inflammation in the back of his elbow is just not quite let him finish like he needs to finish his pitches. And so we're going to give him another break from it and, get him back, hopefully sooner than later, but we'll get him back at appropriate time and, support him. And it gives Randy another opportunity today.
Logan, your last piece here as well.
Yeah, Logan's in for Darvish. It's more of like a growing type hamstring thing that is in the feedback from yesterday better. But we know in those areas they can be tricky, and we want to make sure we get it behind him. So, we're going to need somebody to help us on Tuesday and use spot. Don't think it's anything long-term serious, which is obviously good, but it's something that's going to require some rest.
Sounds like Randy might get multiple opportunities then. He threw the ball well in Atlanta, so what's your expectation for him moving forward, and what's the chance for him of sort of getting into a rhythm possibly?
Yeah, he's had some starts for us. I think he's been better as he's gone, which we always value, of course. Threw the ball really well in Atlanta, six innings, 3 runs, so quality start by definition. I like the way he was. You can see him getting a little more comfortable, a little more in attack mode. Stuff's good, and just need him to dominate the counts today and be in the strike zone with his quality pitches.
So those were the updates on Musgrove, Darvish, and Vasquez. And again, if you really want to break it down one by one there, it doesn't make you feel great that Joe is still dealing with that same issue, but we'll see what the updates are on Joe in the days and weeks to come. As far as Yu Darvish, it doesn't sound all that serious, so that's good news. And Randy Vasquez probably will get a couple of opportunities here to start. Mike Shildt was later asked about the challenge of getting through this stretch without Darvish and Musgrove.
We've had challenges already this year. It's, your challenges are what ultimately identify you. And so I say this, winners find solutions. We'll figure it out. Randy will step up today and pitch well. We'll swing the bats, play good defense, go play good, clean baseball, and look to shake hands. And, it's going to take a, entire, roster to perform for this year's team. And got a lot of contributions from guys, and now we take it from that to the next step.
And like we alluded to, not only does it mean Randy Vasquez starts today's game, but now they have to figure out what they're going to do on Tuesday for what would have been Yu Darvish's start in Anaheim against the Angels. Here was Mike Shildt when he was asked about how the Padres may fill Tuesday's start.
I think we're looking towards calling somebody up to make the start. It's hard. I think your point would be like maybe it's a bullpen game. Bullpen games are just they're great conceptually, and they can take place in certain situations. But you're looking at the fifth game of a 13-game stretch. It's kind of hard to throw out a bullpen game and feel good about holding guys back before the game and then after the game. Where you're compromised. So I feel like we're in a position where we'll probably look at something internally to fill those innings.
So obviously no name given out there from Mike Shildt, but interesting that he did admit there that the Padres are looking to call somebody up to make that start on Tuesday, and now it makes you wonder, okay, well, who could that be on Tuesday? Is it somebody on the 40-man? Is it somebody not on the 40-man? Could it be more of a high-level prospect? I'm not going to throw out any names because I don't want to speculate, but could it be somebody that is maybe more of a high-level prospect that isn't on the 40-man? We'll see, but could get very interesting to see who the Padres call up for that start on Tuesday and somebody they may need beyond Tuesday. So keep an eye on that in the days to come. Here's a little bit more from Mike Shildt from today's pregame presser.
11 hits yesterday, 10 of them singles in that one inning. Does this ballpark play to sort of the approach that you guys have had as an offense this year? There's a lot of open space out there, line drives using the middle of the field. And is that something that anything different that might take place in this field? Is that more just that's what you guys do?
That's what we do. We've normalized it. We talk about like the Petco Park hitting, another big ballpark here. We were intentional about just reminding the guys, heck, they remind themselves, they know this is a real pro group that's really taking ownership of what they're doing and the identity they have. They're running with it. So just make sure they're taking good at-bats using the whole ballpark.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt before today's game. We'll hear more from Mike on our post-game show coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. And by the way, just a programming note, as I mentioned later on this afternoon, for those of you loyal pregame listeners, don't worry. But I'm not going to be on postgame today. It will be Matt Scraby with you on the postgame show to recap this one. So I'll be back with you tomorrow morning bright and early for our pregame coverage before the final game of this series. But Matt Scraby will be on postgame today. So be nice to Scraby. Listen in. Support him. Matt Scraby doing postgame today. We love Scraby. Good to have him here. Let's now tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
We take a look at who's hot, who's not. Let's begin with Luis Arraez. Yesterday, his fourth four-hit game as a Padre. His last 15 games, batting .448 with a .986 OPS. Arraez is leading baseball with a .342 batting average this season. Now let's talk about the guy that ranks second in the majors in batting average. That's Jurickson Profar, who's batting .330 on the year. He had 3 hits last night, 7 for 15 in his last 4 games with a home run and 5 RBIs. Donovan Solano, 8 for 13 in his last 4 games, batting .410 and 39 at-bats. With the Padres so far, he has been absolutely terrific to the point where you wonder if the Padres are going to have to get him in the lineup more often than not. As far as the Royals, a couple of guys to focus on in the hot category. First is Bobby Witt Jr., hitting .404 with 9 extra base hits in his last 12 games, 4 home runs, 19 RBIs in those 12 games. Salvador Perez hitting .310 in a 23-game on-base streak. In the not category, we take a look at the starting catcher for the Padres here today. That is Kyle Higashioka. Excuse me. Yes, it is Kyle Higashioka in the lineup today for the Padres doing the catching. Higashioka is 0 for his last 20, so we'll see if Higgy can get it going for the Padres here today. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not, as we get ready for Game 2 of this 3-game series coming up in Kansas City, Missouri. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit further about those injuries for Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish. Plus, we'll have our keys to the game. We'll hear from Luis Arraez as well. And by the way, just to go back to the lineup for the Padres here today, Donovan Solano is the DH today. I just want to clarify. Solano is in the lineup today, DHing, batting 6th. Higashioka doing the catching today, batting 9th. So Higashioka and Solano in the lineup today for the Padres. Aside from that, everything else is pretty much what you would expect. Arraez, Tatis, Profar, then Cronenworth, then Machado, then Solano, then Merrill, then Kim, and then Higashioka batting 9th. But I did want to point out Solano is in the lineup here today. We'll hear from Luis Arraez when we come back. We'll also have our keys to the game and much more to come as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 1:10 in Kansas City. More pregame after this. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. First pitch coming up at 1:10 in Kansas City. Padres going for a second straight win over the Royals. Right-hander Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres today. Yes, it is Randy Vasquez, not Joe Musgrove, who was the original scheduled starter for today's game. So with that in mind, let's tell you more about it. Let's update you on the injuries for the Padres entering today's game.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit him up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
We've been through this a couple of times already during our pregame coverage, but if you're just joining us, just tuning in, we had some major injury news this morning with both Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish. So the news this morning, we first learned that Randy Vasquez was getting recalled from AAA El Paso to make today's start. The reason for that, Joe Musgrove was put on the IL, right elbow inflammation. That's retroactive to May 29th, and it sounds like the same issue he was dealing with earlier in the month, so he's on the 15-day IL. Right-hander Yu Darvish also put on the 15-day IL this morning. That's retroactive to May 30th, and that's with a left groin strain. So Musgrove on the IL, Darvish on the IL. Padres will have to figure out what their pitching plans are for Tuesday against the Angels. And again, the two corresponding moves to the two IL placements. Randy Vasquez making today's start. He's recalled from AAA El Paso. And right-hander Logan Gillespie also recalled from AAA. So Gillespie will be available in the Padres bullpen. We'll see how many starts Randy Vasquez gets back in the major leagues. Before we get to our keys to the game and we hear from Luis Arraez, let's take a quick look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We have one game going on right now. Everything else is coming up a little bit later on today. Pirates ahead of the Blue Jays 3-0 in Toronto in the second. Rays and the Orioles coming up later at 1:05. Other matchups later on today. All this coming up in the 1 o'clock hour here on the West Coast, or the 4 o'clock hour, or the 7 o'clock hour a little bit later on the West Coast. Diamondbacks and the Mets in New York. White Sox and the Brewers in Milwaukee, Tigers and the Red Sox in Boston, Twins in Houston against the Astros, A's in Atlanta, Rangers in Miami, Nationals and the Guardians in Cleveland, Angels and the Mariners in Seattle, Reds and the Cubs in Chicago, Cardinals and the Phillies in Philadelphia, Yankees and the Giants later on this evening in San Francisco. Aaron Judge had a couple of home runs in San Francisco yesterday in a Yankees win, and the Rockies and the Dodgers in LA later on this evening. And that is a quick full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Saturday. We'll have much more on all those games coming up later during our post-game show. Well, Luis Arraez is not only the reigning National League Player of the Week, but he continues to just be stellar in a Padres uniform. He almost quietly yesterday had 4 hits, already his 4th 4-hit game as a San Diego Padre. So far in 103 at-bats with the Padres, Arraez is batting .398. He has been so good since the trade from Miami. Already 4 separate games with 4 hits. And there was a great note yesterday from Sarah Langs, the great Sarah Langs, on Luis Arraez. Sarah tweeting last night, Luis Arraez is the first player with at least 4 games with 4+ hits in his first 24 games with the franchise since 1900. So that is how rare what Arraez is doing right now. He has just been terrific. Luis Arraez spoke with the media earlier this week. We didn't play this earlier in the week, so a good time to do it now because Arraez touches on a number of different topics here. Here was some of his media availability after winning NL Player of the Week.
Congratulations on your first Player of the Week honor, to earn it here in San Diego, where immediately you've been able to make such immediate contributions. What's the significance to you?
Thank you for the opportunity. It's big for me, especially we another team, new team for me, and especially here in San Diego. I want to give this to the fans for support me, my teammates, my family, and then this is amazing.
You know, the other day, your manager, Mike Shildt, was talking about how this team isn't getting enough credit for how well you all have gelled, especially with how many new guys have come in. You, of course, being one of them. What can you say about the chemistry that you've been able to find with this team so quickly?
Oh, I appreciate him. He's amazing. I just come here to play baseball, do my little things to win, and then give my energy to my whole team and except to the manager, because this is team. This is a team, so we just need to come here and play baseball. So we got a really good team. We just need to keep continue to play baseball.
When you first heard the news that you were traded, what were you doing and what were your immediate reactions?
I was surprised, yeah. That was too soon, but everybody knows this is business, this is baseball. I just I was in my locker, talked with my wife and my hitting coach. We just starting to do my routine work, and then Skip called me, hey, we gotta talk. And I say, Skip, what happened? I do something bad or what? And then he say, I look his face, he was sad. And then I say, oh, did something happen? And then I go with him to the gym and he say, hey, we trade you to San Diego. I was surprised because that was too soon, but now I'm here with another team and nothing. This is baseball.
How would you describe the atmosphere surrounding the team here as opposed to Miami?
Amazing. We got a lot of fans. The fans, I mean, this is an energy stadium. It's like when I played my classic baseball in Miami, when I saw a lot of people, they just give me a lot of energy. When I saw the people, the fans coming to support us, this is everything for us, so that's what we need.
How about the atmosphere in the locker room? How is that different here than in Miami?
It's nothing different. It's nothing different. I played with a lot of big names, like Nelson Cruz in Miami, and Carlos Correas, and in Miami, I got JB, he played here. I got a lot of good guys around me, Jax, and then, like I say, this is baseball. Now I got Manny, Tatis, and then I'm close with Wade, and then soccer. I feel like a family here.
Wow. How long did it take for you to really get comfortable here?
First day.
Really?
The first day when I get my first hit in Arizona. I feel so comfortable.
Now, your family is still in Miami, correct?
Correct.
How do you deal with that? Are you planning to bring them to San Diego, or how do you keep contact with them? How does that affect you emotionally that they're so far
I
away?
just open my mind. They understand this is my job. So they are here. They are here already, so they come back to Miami tomorrow. The good things that my wife, she's fly here, my mom, my dad, my sister, everybody's here with me, so they understand this is my job. So anything is happening with my family, so they just enjoy what I do right now.
That was Luis Arraez earlier this week inside the Padres dugout. That was shortly after winning his National League Player of the Week award. That was for last week. We'll see. Arraez has had a mighty good week this week as well. So great for Luis. And again, we didn't play that audio for you earlier in the week. I thought Luis touched on a number of good things there during the media availability. So as always, very good to hear from Luis Arraez. Another 4-hit game for the Padres yesterday. We'll see what's in store for Luis here today with first pitch coming up at 1:10 in Kansas City. Let's give you our keys to the game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Key number 1, roll with Randy. An emergency start today for Randy Vasquez. And look, without getting into the numbers, we'll get more into that during our pitching preview in our final segment. Randy doesn't have to be perfect today, but you do want him to keep the Padres in this game. This Royals offense, we saw at home yesterday, they can score runs in a hurry. So key number 1, very generally, Randy Vasquez just has to keep the Padres in this one here today in a bit of an emergency start with Joe Musgrove going on the IL earlier this morning. So that's key number 1. Key number 2, attack the sinker. Here's why. Royal starter Alec Marsh has reverse splits this season. Righties are hitting .252 against him with 4 home runs, while lefties are hitting him .182 with just 1 home run. Part of the troubles against righties for Marsh has been because of his sinker, really a lack of success with that sinker. Opponents are hitting .419 against his sinker with a .710 slugging percentage on that pitch, but opponents are hitting .168 with a .277 slugging percentage against the rest of his pitch mix. So, what does that mean? Well, Marsh has really struggled with that sinker. And for right-handed batters, it can be a pitch they can attack. So, we know the Padres have guys like Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., Ha-Seong Kim, Donovan Solano here today. They have righties who may be able to take advantage of that sinker. That's key number 2, attack that Marsh sinker. Key number 3, continue to feast on this Royals bullpen. Padres scored 9 runs in the 8th inning last night, all against a trio of Royals relievers. The Royals bullpen has been a problem for Kansas City lately. 16 earned runs allowed in their last 15 2/3 innings. And to be honest with you, it's not just lately either. The Royals bullpen has the 7th highest ERA of any bullpen in the majors this season at 4.42. So a big key here today, can the Padres take advantage of that pen once again? We saw them do it yesterday, 9 runs, 11 hits in 1 inning. Can they do it again here today after Alec Marsh, presumably at some point, comes out of the game? That's key number 3, and that's a look at our keys to the game. Let's read one of your keys to today's game. We have Rod on YouTube saying, key to the game, start fast with the small ball, get runners on base, and take advantage of the weak KC bullpen. Give pitching run support and steal bases. So Rod wants to see that running game here today. Rod, I think you're spot on with all your keys. Taking advantage of the bullpen, getting runners on base, some small ball. Like we said in the opening segment with Jesse Agler, when this Padres offense has been at its best, they have just been an offense that strings hits together, moves the line, passes the baton, whatever way you want to put it. We certainly saw that in the 8th inning yesterday. One note on the Padres offense before we go to break. Padres continue to be just a terrific offense on the road. After last night, the Padres now have a .294 team batting average on the road and a .348 team on base percentage on the road. Both those numbers lead Major League Baseball. .294 team batting average on the road. They have just been a great offense away from Petco Park. When we come back here on the Padres Radio Network, we'll tell you what to watch for in today's game and dive into our pitching matchup between Randy Vasquez and Alec Marsh. First pitch coming up at 1:10 in Kansas City on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. We go out to Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr. In just about 6 minutes, they'll have first pitch at 1:10 as the Padres play game 2 of this 3-game set. Let's tell you what to watch for in today's game.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game? Are we seeing Fernando Tatis Jr. start to come around offensively here. Kevin Acee in the San Diego Union-Tribune this morning had a really good write-up on Tatis's exit velocity lately. Entering yesterday, 11 of his previous 14 balls in play had an exit velocity of 95 miles per hour or harder. And then you look at yesterday. Here were the exit velos for Tatis last night. 95 miles an hour, 108 miles an hour, 110 miles an hour, and again, 110 miles an hour. So Fernando is hitting the ball hard, like really, really hard. What does that mean moving forward? Is it a sign of Fernando starting to get going here? We'll see what he does today, but keep an eye on that today. Fernando, how hard does he hit the ball? Does it lead to results? That's what to watch for in today's game. Now let's dive into our pitching matchup between Randy Vasquez and Alec Marsh.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
In place of Joe Musgrove, who went on the IL earlier today, right-hander Randy Vasquez is up from AAA El Paso to make today's start. This will be his sixth start in the major leagues this season. A 5.82 ERA and 21 2/3 innings so far. His last start in the majors came last Monday, May 20th in Atlanta. Went 6 innings, 3 earned runs given up, pretty good. 10 hits, he did allow 1 home run. He then started last weekend at AAA El Paso against Sacramento. 4 innings and a third, 2 earned runs given up on 6 hits. He has faced the Royals before. That came last September with the Yankees in Kansas City. 3 2/3 innings, 1 earned run given up, 4 hits. He struck out 6, walked 2. The arsenal for Vasquez: 4-seamer, curveball, sinker, changeup, sweeper, and a cutter. On the mound for the Royals, right-hander Alec Marsh, 26 years old so far this season, 4-2, a 3.24 ERA in 9 starts, 50 innings, 43 strikeouts, and 14 walks. Last start Monday against the Twins, he went 7 innings, allowed 5 runs. Last 3 starts, a 4.50 ERA in 18 innings, a 2.53 ERA in his first 6 starts of the season. So it's been a little tougher as of late. And the arsenal for Marsh: a 4-seam fastball, a slider, a curve, a sinker, a changeup, and a sweeper. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup here today. Alec Marsh for Kansas City, Randy Vasquez making the start for San Diego. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. When we come back, Jesse Agler, Tony Gwynn Jr. have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and then all the play-by-play. Matt Scraby will talk to you on our postgame show later on this afternoon. You're listening to your home for Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.